We've all been told that certain foods, like these potato chips or Reese's, are probably not good for us. But what if it's not the food itself, but the way it's prepared that is bad? Ultra-processed foods are consumed by most people on a daily basis. Having more knowledge of why these foods are not as good for you will help you have a happier and more positive lifestyle. Eating less processed foods will help you feel better, be healthier, and your quality of life will improve. I've researched the effects of consuming processed foods on a regular basis extensively and used reliable sources. I can also state from personal experience that cutting just 1 to 2 processed foods from your diet will help you feel much better. First, we'll answer the question of what is processed food. Second, we will explore effects of consuming processed food regularly. Third, we will discuss ways to consume less processed food. And finally, we will look at ways to eat less processed food even when you are on a budget. Eating less processed foods will help you feel better, be healthier, and your quality of life will improve. There are many definitions to what processed food actually is. As noted in a 2015 article titled "What is Processed Food?" written by Sidney Fry, processed food is defined as a food with a series of mechanical or physical operations performed to change or preserve the food. High processed food typically comes in some sort of package and has a long list of ingredients that are hard to pronounce on it. Raw produce, however, can also be considered processed. This apple can be considered processed. When they are cut, washed, or packaged, the food automatically will be considered processed. Most foods we eat today have been processed in some way, shape, or form. Types of processed foods, however, can be rich in nutrients and good for us. Food like Greek yogurt or frozen vegetables can be considered processed but are beneficial to our health. However, the majority of processed foods are highly processed and have artificial flavors, refined sugars, and added salt that is all harmful to our health. Now that we have defined what processed food is, we'll discuss the effects of consuming processed food regularly. There are many effects, mostly negative, of what happens when you regularly consume processed food. In a Medical News Today article titled "More Evidence That Ultra-Processed Food Could Harm Health," written by Anna Sandeau in 2019, scientists linked ultra-processed foods with an increased risk of medical conditions. Cancer, type 2 diabetes, and celiac disease are some of the diseases that you are at risk for when you consume more processed food. Another study in the article states that the more processed food you consume, the more likely you are to die from any cause, 62% specifically. In other words, if you overconsume on ultra-processed food on a daily basis, you may not live as long. Ultra-processed foods lack an overall nutritional value. In the same Medical News Today article, it stated that ultra-processed foods have a total higher amount of fat, sugar, and salt when compared to whole foods. These ingredients are bad for our health and may lead to health issues. Processed foods are lower in fiber and vitamins, which means they are less beneficial to our health and ultimately give us less energy. Now that we have discussed some of the effects of regularly consuming processed foods, we will look at ways to reduce the consumption of processed food. There are many ways to reduce your consumption of processed food. In a 2019 100 Days of Real Food article written by Lisa Leake titled "Real Food: 8 Tips to Avoid Processed Foods," some of these strategies are mentioned. Small changes to the food you buy will have a big impact on your well-being. By reading ingredient labels found on the back of the package typically, you can avoid added high fructose corn syrup, artificial flavors, salt, and any other ingredients that may be on the package that you have no idea what they are. Purchasing more whole foods is another practical way to cut back on processed foods. Simply by purchasing more apples or more carrots will help you cut back on eating processed food. By taking 1 hour to prep more whole foods at the beginning of the week will help you eat healthier throughout the week. If you cut or cook some food, at the beginning of the week to eat, it is more convenient for a busy lifestyle. Local farmers markets and Whole Foods stores are also a good way to purchase less processed food. At farmers markets or stores that specialize in whole food, the food is much less processed and better for your health. Now that we have discussed ways to eat less processed foods, we will talk about ways to eat better on a budget. One of the biggest arguments is that healthy food is more expensive to buy. In a 2015 Business Insider article by Ada Bajarto titled 19 Ways to Eat Healthy on a Budget disproves this argument. One simple way to cut costs is by purchasing less processed food and more whole foods. Food does not have to be organic either. Just because this apple is not organic does not mean it's bad for me. You can still get high nutritional value out of foods even if they might not be organic. This will help you save money if you buy non-organic and just simply buy an apple. Another tip is to buy food that is in season. Produce that is in season is often cheaper, it has more nutrients in it, and it tastes better. A second way to save money on eating healthy is by planning meals or buying in bulk. When you make a meal plan for the week or the month even, you know what food you're going to need to buy for groceries, so you'll waste less money on food that you might not even eat and eventually throw out. Buying in bulk is also beneficial. Buying grains like rice or oats is cheaper and it will last you longer, so you have to buy it less. First, we answer the question, what is processed food? Second, we discuss the effects of consuming processed food on a regular basis. Third, we discuss ways to eat less processed food. And finally, we discuss tips to eat better foods even when on a budget. Eating less processed food will help you feel better, be healthier, and your quality of life will improve. The way food is prepared has a large effect on the nutritional value of it. Too much processed food will leave you feeling unfulfilled and you will not be as healthy. Eating processed food in moderation is key. It's okay to have one Reese's every once in a while or once every few days, but eating one every day is not good for you. The key is to make simple changes that add up to bigger changes, which will result in you feeling happier and healthy. Remember, starting small is better than no change at all.